I'm very happy to have you here. Welcome to the school. Um, these moments are very important because it's not only sharing what the school is, but it's a very good opportunity to start creating the connection that we want to create. One of the most important things of the school is the powerful benefit of learning in community. And that, of course, applies to the kids. That's why they all learn together. They do projects together. They help each other. They teach each other. But at the same time, the community around becomes an amazing source of knowledge and inspiration for the kids. I'm sure that if I start asking you, what do you do? What are your passions? There's a lot of amazing things that are going to come out of it. And that's the best way to really inspire kids to go deep into learning experiences connected to the real world somehow. The school is a school that honors in a very relevant way the student. Um, and I know this is very common to hear. And there's a lot of very good intentions in that sense, but it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge to really be able to give the right path to all the different kids, considering all the diversity that you can find in a human being. What we do in that sense is that everything starts with a lot of observation and information. That information comes from observation that we do with the kids, from the families, from their friends, and from themselves. And there's three different areas of knowledge, of information that it's very important for us. One is interests and passions, because those are the doors to really be able to focus their attention in the different learning objectives, but opening the door with something that's already important and relevant for them. Also, what are they amazing at? Their natural gifts and talents. Because when you empower a child to use their talents uh, to do something, they feel very confident, and that gives them the confidence to stretch their comfort zone in their learning process. And the third part is, how are they on the different learning objectives, which in this case, it's not only the academic learning objectives, but also the inner and social skills that we are intentionally working with them in developing. So using that information and with the use of technology, we're being able to really organize that and create experiences that are very accurate to what the child is needing in regard to the learning process, and to connect it in a way that it's engaging for them. So depending on the moment and the age, the experience is very different. Even though the principles and the essence behind the school is the same, the way it manifests is different. So if you see nursery, for example, and the initial stages of preschool, um, definitely safety is a very important thing. Not only the physical safety, but their emotional sense of safety. That's crucial. And a school needs to feel safe for the kids. They need to have joy, and they need to feel cared and loved somehow. If we can assure those three things, the rest will flow much easier. So, of course, for the younger kids, that feeling and sense of safety is essential. In that, and apart from that, the right context, the right experiences that help them to navigate with a lot of exploration and free play. That's a stage in which they need that. They need it for developing different social skills. They need it to start engaging with the world in different ways. If a child has a lot of genuine experiences with water, for example, when they get to primary and start understanding the concept of volume and weight, their body, their mind already has that experience, and therefore the literal understanding of that comes from a real experience. So sensory experiences are very important for the younger ages. Representative games as well. I'm going to show you soon how that looks in this space. And of course, here they start connecting with the initial stages of letters and numbers in a very engaging and fun way for them. So maybe we can start moving a little bit, and I can show you the difference between the different spaces, and then any questions that you have, I'll be happy to help. So things like this is part of what we use a lot to activate curiosity and inspiration in the kids. The ponies have definitely been a highlight. You can imagine that with the kids, all ages. They've done amazing things triggered by the connection with the ponies. Some of the girls from primary, 10-year-old girls, did an amazing website all by themselves because they wanted to share the story of the ponies and get funds for them to help them in different ways. They did a whole website. When they finished, it was done in English, and we want them to be able to navigate very fluently both Spanish and English, maybe more languages, but at least assure those two. So, for example, in that case, we asked them to pair with native Spanish-speaking friends so that they could translate it together. And that's something that happens a lot. They ended up having a bilingual website in which the English-speaking girl would make sure that the Spanish-speaking girl would understand everything and vice versa, and they had a very good result at the end. They learn about the systems, nervous system, respiratory system, circulatory system, digestive system, because they were curious in how a pony would be inside. And then we translated that into how it looks in a human being. So these type of things are very valuable because we need to make sure that the learning happens based in purpose. We learned in a paradigm of fear-based learning. Like, if you don't do this, there's going to be a bad consequence, a bad grade. We're going to speak with your family. You're going to go to the principal's office. That really kills the joy of learning that we all human beings have. We love to learn, and we love to be able to do something that we were not being able to do before. But the way we approached the learning disconnected us from that joyful experience of growing in different ways. So for that, this type of things is very efficient because you naturally can create interest and purpose as a door for the learning process. Here we have the nursery. I think we do have one potential uh, boy for it. I think they're in the preschool area now, but I can show you the space. Nursery from 1 year and a half to 3, but they start a transition at 2.5. So as I said, representative games and sensory games are very important. The kitchen is always, we have kitchens in all the different spaces, evolving the one in primary and middle school is a full kitchen in which they cook anything they want. Here it's more playing a little bit with it. So as I said, this type of representative games are they want to simulate what they see in the world around them. That's very important for them. And there's a lot of natural learning through that. For example, here they do counting, they start connecting with letters in different ways. There's a lot of things happen in that sense. There's different spaces here. Let me show you. This is an area with some representative games and experiences.
How do you balance like the quantity of toys with their interest?
One key thing around that is rotation. We have seen that having less materials but having a lot of rotation in them, it's the best for engagement. In primary, for example, the whole space changes every month fully. The distribution of the space, the materials. Every 2 weeks, they change the materials inside. You'll see the space soon, but it has an area for building, it has an area for letters, it has a letter for numbers, it has a letter for art experiences, but that changes every 2 weeks so that they keep engaged. And we've seen that less is more in that sense, because their attention is fully awakened when there's a new experience offered. So here in the other side, it's more like a resting area.
Okay. So do they have like a nap schedule here?
They do, depending on the kid, because some are much younger, so they need more. But usually after lunch, there's a moment of rest, if not before. But after lunch, every section of the school has a moment of rest. The older ones don't sleep, but they do read, they rest a little bit, and it helps the energy to calm down a little bit before going home. So it is really bringing good results. There's going to be a lot of work done during the vacations time in outside. There's going to be a playground. There's going to be a sandbox. The ratio here is 2 or 3 to 1. In preschool, 3, 4 to 1, and primary at the moment we are 3 to 1, but it can get up to 10 to 1 easily. We have a bigger team at the moment because we are in a very important stage of the school. We're developing a lot of the new projects, so we need high quality and good volume of teachers to be able to do that in the best way. which is being amazing for the kids because the level of attention that they receive from the teachers at the moment is very high. It's hard to find that ages with a ratio of 3 or 4 to 1, and the level of detailed attention that we can bring is very high. So, and I think that's going to stay at least for a year, um, like that. Do you want to see the preschool? Yeah. Do you have questions about the nursery? And I can also put, if you want to speak with Nevila, who's the person in charge of this, she's flying today to the UK. But if you want to speak with her, she'll be happy to connect with you through Zoom or any. Okay. Sensory experiences are very important. The sand is a big highlight. Water is also very important for them in different ways. And here you see also the representative games. This changes every month. At the moment, this is an ice cream shop. Before it was a medical center. Over there, there's a home that also changes. They now have a beauty salon inside and they have different things. And this brings immense value to the kids in many, many ways. We always start with a morning circle. It's a good moment to connect. It's a good moment to bring clarity of the opportunities of the day. Depending on their age, they plan or not their day. The older kids, they plan their day every morning with what we call the personal coordinator, which is a teacher that follows the process of the child in a very attentive way. Every teacher helps everybody, but there's always one teacher that's following the whole process and gathering the information from the different teachers of each child. So with that personal coordinator in the mornings, they plan and they prepare what they were going to be doing during the day. It changes depending on the age. We all share that morning circle, moments of specific invitations that they can navigate or be part of. We all have that resting time after lunch and a closing circle as well at the end. Depending on the age, in between that, there's more or less things happening. But, so if you see here, this is an area for building at the moment. It's the type of things that we put here change. Games like this, for them to start connecting with numbers, it's a very simple way to do it. I remember, for example, Silvana. She's 11 now. She learned how to count maybe in 2 or 3 days up to 100 just by jumping the rope. An invitation was made for every kid to work together and counting how many jumps they could do as a group. And in 2 days, 90% of them were counting up to 100 in a very easy way. So that's somehow a simple but very good example of how you can do a lot of things without the feeling of I need to do this because I'm being pressured to do it, but just like a natural experience. And they do love learning. Here, every morning they have a new provocation. That table is there for that. And it's always a different experience. Sometimes it's a sensory experience, sometimes it's a letters experience, sometimes it's a game. It can be very different things. But they always come in the morning wanting to see what's in the table. And every week they have 6 different tables with different projects or challenges to complete. We started with less and they asked for more. They really want to do more things and to complete more things. So maybe I can show you here. Everything has a purpose and an intention. If you see this, for example, with these ages, it's something that awakens a lot of curiosity. This is a rock they found in the river together. And I don't know if you can see, but this has quartz inside. So this type of things for them trigger not only a lot of connection with the physical experience of something like that, but the curiosity of much more things behind it. Here is the area for the initial stages of letters. As you see, it's not a worksheet in which they need to write 100 times the letter A. It's a sensory experience that they enjoy very much. They love playing with sand. So for the initial steps of tracing, this type of things help a lot. And this is not always here. It changes to different things. Sometimes it's a very different experience, but this is the type of things that you can see. Here is more a resting area, story time or reading time after lunch, depending on the age. So what we do is give them the offers, like offer them the opportunities, but don't push them into anything. Actually, the moment in which they transition to the different stages is not necessarily by age, but it's because of the reality of their moment. Some of the kids love reading and writing since they're very young, and they get really engaged. And when they're 4, they're already reading, you know, long things and being able to write longer things. For some other kids, it changes, and that's fine. We don't add any pressure into it, but we do use the information that we have from them. What do they like? What are their interests? To make the offers more appealing. So even though they're not forced, they end up um, going through all of it at the end because they want to do it. And in the moment in which they are transitioning to move over there, we are a little bit more intentional in helping them connect the shapes of letters with words, phrases, because that gives them a lot of autonomy in primary. If they're able to at least read and write a simple sentence, that gives them the autonomy to read some things as research, to create products that they want to share with the others. So that's a natural motivation for them also to be able to move to the side of the big ones to advance in these things. And as you see, this is at the end not pushing anything, but in a very natural way, they can connect to the shapes and forms of a letter. And that's not forcing them to do anything, but it's keeping their minds connected to something so that when the moment comes, the speed is going to be very high. If you're really just offering opportunities, um, if the child is ready and the brain is ready for it, they will naturally be drawn into it. If not, they won't. And that's why it's important not to tell everybody, okay, now you need to sit down here and you all need to do this. Because that would be a problem. Hello? That would definitely be a problem in that sense. But we've seen a lot of kids that are 5, for example. Actually, we have a girl that's 5 and she's already there because for her everything became very natural. There's no effort. She has an amazing emotional connection as well. It's not that she's blocked that.
So it's not
she's
like an anxious learning.
It's not anxious learning exactly. It's just the joy of going deeper into.
Yeah, because there's the interest.
Yes, the
But then
interest
obviously
is
where
very
we are,
important.
it's like if some kid's into reading and everyone's pushing them into reading, then they just like
Yes, and there's a very high risk with that, which is that they reject reading. We need to make sure that they're connecting into it with a passion and joy of reading something. What they read is also very important, and that in the case of primary, they're building their own books library. We went to the bookstores together, and they choose what they want to read. So whatever you want to read, read. Go ahead and enjoy it. And in that sense, very quickly, when the time comes, they will go very deeply into the reading. Silvana, my daughter, started with Garfield, for example. Uh, I had some Garfield books from when I was a kid at home. She took one, she started enjoying them. In 1 week, she read like 5. After that, she started reading 300, 400 pages books, and she's now a very avid and active reader. But I'm sure that if I had pushed her into, okay, now you need to sit down and read this book and answer these questions to me, and she would have had some resistance to it. So offerings, I think, is the key thing instead of pushing, the right offering instead of pushing. We have a very detailed what we call windows of opportunity. It would be the traditional curriculum. Instead of a very specific day-to-day thing that kids need to learn, we use a 2-year period of what we call a window of opportunity. So depending on the age or stage, we have a range of 2 years in which they can connect naturally because of their brain development and their natural capacities to the different learning objectives. So we give a lot of freedom into that, and sometimes some kids can jump windows of opportunity forward, But if we see that the window of opportunity is closing, like only reading or only numbers, when that window is close to finish, we use the information that we have of the child to offer them something that, through the curiosity, connects that with the other path that they haven't gone deeply into. So we're always aware of that. And that's why the ratio of teachers to kids is very important, because we really need to be paying attention to all of that. And we don't do traditional tests. We do every now and then bring a test experience as just the experience, because we need them to become good at it. They're gonna probably have to do some tests in their student career. But we take out all the fear-based paradigm behind it, and we just but most of the information is not collected through that. It's through challenges we present, to things we observe they're doing. We measure a lot their ability to use that knowledge in a context that's real for them. And that doesn't happen sitting down in a table. That happens offering different things. This is the little kitchen that the preschool has. In this case, it's mainly to cut vegetables, fruits, that type of things. They don't have the fire part, but the rest, they do have it all. If you want to come here, you can see this is an area for the kids to start connecting with numbers and shapes, everything around math. Preschool, yes. So as you see, they have different materials that they can explore in different ways. And this is something that has been working pretty well. They have the chance to mark the challenges that they have completed, and that keeps them wanting to do it along the week. So each of the offerings that you see on the tables is one of the things that they can complete. But there's absolutely no pressure for them to, I mean, it's not that they're going to feel bad if they don't do it. Nobody's judging that. It's just a natural desire to complete things. What I've seen is that when there's a clear agreement and it has enough firmness, but not violence or power over the kid, it's just this is an agreement that we collectively, that it's important for us. So you don't need to use fear, but just that energy of, no, when we finish using a material, we clean it up and we leave it in a way that somebody else can use it well. When they finish eating, they clean their table, they wash their dishes, they serve the food themselves, and that's a very important moment for them. And at the end, you don't see any resistance. It's just, and there's a collective inspiration somehow always happening. And when a new kid comes, he naturally integrates into what he sees in his peers. So we don't actually need to tell a lot. They just would see that everybody's standing up, bringing the little fabric to clean the table, then going to wash it, and they would just follow. So we haven't really had a problem with that. Sometimes you support the process a little bit, like, okay, let's do it together. But it's kids follow very well agreements when they're being honored. The tricky thing is when you use your power as an adult to impose an agreement, and they don't understand it, and it doesn't make sense to them, and they don't feel part of the agreement. That's a very different thing, because that creates sometimes fear response. So I'll do it because I'm afraid of my dad, or I would just reject it because I need freedom and I need choice. But if you really honor an agreement, and at home, that's important as well. There are agreements at home that this is an agreement, but we talk about it, we agree together on it, and it flows very well. I wanted to show you this. Maybe I can show it from, you don't need to come, but well, this is water. Every Fridays in the morning they have this. Something that I didn't tell you here, every Tuesday they go to the river, every Thursday they go to the forest, a beautiful spot in both places. And that's a very relevant experience. Here they have the little carpentry with real tools. We've seen great effects from that. Silks are always a big thing. They're doing amazing things with that. those type of tools, we've seen a lot of value in it. And we've never had an accident. If you see, they have real hammers, they have knives, they have but actually, young kids are very cautious when they're connecting to something for the first time. There's a lot of research showing that plastic knives it's much more dangerous and much more accidents happen afterwards because they don't recognize the risk of a knife. My kids started cutting using knives since they were a year and a half or so, and they've never had an accident. Santiago, when he was 2.5 or 3, he would come home every day with piles of wood with just nails in it, like big piles. He never hit himself. Now he's an amazing builder. He's been building much more complex things, and I'm sure that it started here somehow with this type of tools. So, and the older kids have a full wood shop with all the tools they need to create different projects that they're working on. Ahora después o en algún momento te puedo hacer actualización de la primera parte.
Perdona, no sé
No,
por qué yo lo
tranquila.
puse a las 9:30.
Y si
Dije, "Puta, ya todo el
quieres,
mundo le
ya
dijeron
sea por
ya".
Zoom o algo, podemos también hablar con más calma después para que... They are preparing games to play with the whole school today as it is the final day, and they are themselves creating the different games. So this is where the kids from primary middle school are. They are all working together, but of course we honor the different stages and we have focus times for the specific things that each stage needs. But the project is a group project and they do create a lot of different solutions or products interacting in different ages. Um, we have a principle here which is very important. Anything that we need to do as a school, there needs to be a very clear reason why the kids shouldn't be part of that. What does that mean? For example, the design of the space. At the beginning, when they came in the first day of classes this semester, instead of having everything ready for them, the space was fully empty, and we told them, "This is your space. What would you like to see here? What needs do you have that you think that this space can solve for you?" And they started a very interesting creative process of designing their own space. The first agreements together as a group came in that moment. And now what you see, it's a group of kids that's very empowered of the natural use of the space. The agreements were done by them. There's an area for silent studying, there's an area for group projects, there's an area for resting and chilling. And they naturally honor that very clearly because they decided how they wanted the space to be. This is the kitchen. It's always a big opportunity for them. A lot of learning happens, a lot of connection happens. Cooking together is something has something socially that it's very valuable. Of course, we offer all the food they need, but this is a space in which they can prepare more things and they can work in different projects around this. They've done amazing recipe books and a lot of different things around that. This area is more focused on the research part. They do use technology depending on what's the need. They need to have a very clear reason why they need it. It's not that it's just easier. The more they can research, create things connected to the real world, the better. But we definitely see the value of opening doors to much more areas of knowledge with technology and the type of products they are creating. The website, for example, they created for the ponies was an amazing result, and it implied a lot of work behind, a lot of attention, a lot of learning opportunities through that. And the percentage of time that they use technology is very low, but it has a lot of good results in it. Normally, there's a lot of things from the projects around. This week, we already finished the project, so you won't see a lot, but I'll share a few things with you. So this is the area they chose for like chill area and resting, um, and they use it a lot. The sewing machine is also used in a lot of projects. And maybe I would like to share with you. Should we go outside? I would like to share with you how the learning experience happens here because I think that's one of the key things. Um, I've had the chance to be part and support a lot of very interesting educational programs in different parts of the world. And what I have seen is that the biggest challenge happens in primary, because that a lot of the principles and the essence that comes from Maria Montessori, Waldorf, have had very good results with the younger kids, but then there's a moment in which the academic requirements start to become a little bit harder. So they end up either leaving a lot of holes in things that are could be very helpful for the kids, or falling back into the trap of traditional teaching, fear-based, very rigid structures, and that's something that we really need to solve. In that sense, I think that what we're being able to do here has been working very well. So um, everything is organized in projects that last from 6 weeks to 8 weeks, but every project has sub themes that come every week. And the flow throughout the whole week is what I think it's like a very good opportunity that we have for a lot of engaged learning. So everything starts awakening curiosity. That's the key starting point. We need to activate curiosity around the theme, and we need to connect the child emotionally with the theme somehow. So just to give you an example, one of the last projects that we worked on was they were creating their dream town. We really invited them to rethink how they would see a city, how they would see a town. I was amazed and very inspired and hope. I mean, a lot of hope came up of seeing what they were bringing, and also remind me the importance of not interfering with those creative processes, because we could have just made the mistake of telling them, this is the town, you can do something here. But by leaving it fully open, the ideas that they brought were really something that if I see the future of a city, that's a city I would like to live in. That's the city I would like for my children, for my grandchildren. And they worked very hard in that. So one of the key things for them in that project was the connection of the town with forests and life. So one of the first weeks of the project, we introduced everything around regeneration and forests. That curiosity awakener, in that sense, was the whole space. We closed it, we made it darker, we filled it up with all the plants and trees that we could find, simulating a forest. We put sounds of the forest, a big projection of beautiful images from the Amazon rainforest, and they came in, and it was very appealing for them in many ways. But then gradually, the images from the Amazon started showing a lot of the problems around deforestation and different things happening in the Amazon. So it was not only the awakening of their curiosity intellectually, but at the same time, a connection emotionally with a feeling of, I need to do something for that. So that triggered a lot of interesting things. In another theme, for example, we had a week around waste management. So the favorite spots that they have in the school were filled with garbage. It was a big impact for them when they arrived in the morning on Monday, but it very naturally took them to create an amazing waste management system for the whole school, teach everybody in the school how to do it, how to use it, understood a lot of things around. And that can change in very different ways. For example, in a week that we worked around water, that curiosity awakener was a challenge. We put water with soil, water with oil, water with salt, and we told them you need to choose at least one of these, clean it, so that you can drink a glass of that water. They did amazing things, and they understood. They started connecting to a lot of different things, densities. Um, I mean, a lot of different things happened. They ended up being able to clean it and drink it. Um, and of course, we supported that process to make sure that it was safe for them. But it was amazing to see the level of curiosity and the desire to really be able to do something, and in very different ways, because separating water from salt or salt from water is very different because the salt is diluted. Separating something that goes to the bottom, that is the sediment, is very different to the oil that floats on top. And there's a lot of interesting learning opportunities that arose from that. So we always start with a curiosity awakener. That's very important. Then is the right moment to include what we call learning labs. That would be like the traditional class in a normal school. It doesn't happen in the same way, but it achieves the same or even deeper results in terms of learning. What are the main difference? First, it's a very active experience. It's never going to be 30, 40, 1 hour of a group of kids sitting in a table listening to a teachers say things that they're not really interested in. It's very active. It connects it with the reality of the project they're working in. And we switch the order of the discovery process that we want them to have at the beginning. Instead of the teachers starting and telling them, this is all that you need to learn, then go to practice. We give them the invitations and the questions and the challenges for them to, together as a group, start getting into the knowledge and trying to solve and understand what it's being presented. And then the teacher is there to make sure that the depth and the quality of that learning process goes deep enough. What we've seen in that sense is that the efficiency and the depth and the speed in which they learn is very high because they're connected through their curiosity, because it is connected to a real context. That's very important. We need to make sure that the learning happens connected to the real world. There's a lot of research showing that when you teach something to somebody and the person doesn't use it before 14 days, you lose that knowledge. Since the start here, we make sure that the learning process is connected to something that they find value in, because they are wanting to solve something that started with that curiosity awakeners, but they realize there's knowledge and skills that I don't have yet to solve it like I want to. So when they receive the learning labs, they are, yes, I want to learn this, I want to go deeper into this because that's going to help me to solve what I intend to do. And of course, that's how we can assure that all the curriculum learning objectives are being met. Those group projects are very valuable for that. Um, for example, around water, they learned everything around volumes, around weight, around distances, filtering, chemistry. Um, I saw my 8-year-old, now he's 9, at that time he was 8. He came home in the afternoon telling me everything around how an atom works, how our molecules build, what are the bonds between the different atoms, things that I learned much older. And he was fully into it just because he was curious, triggered by, I want to clean this water in the best way. So they asked the science teacher, I've heard a lot of times the word atom. What is that? And she created an experience for them to engage in it, and they all of connected in an amazing way. They write a lot, they research a lot, they do a lot of different types of writing depending on their age for the products or for the projects that they're working on. So Curiosity Awakener, then the Learning Lab, and then a very important moment comes as well, which is the moment in which we connect that learning with the real world outside. So, for example, we call that the real world quest. In the week of the forest, we went to an amazing national park and they could see all the layers of the forest that they were understanding here. They could see everything around the animal kingdom, plant kingdom. Fungi was something that awoke a lot of curiosity in them, the mycelium and how it's connecting everything underground in the forest. So they could see that and they could see the effect of that. For the water week, we went to a farm and we saw the whole process of water since it is collected in the spring, how to take care of that spring, how it is distributed, how it is treated, how it's used, how it's treated after use, the difference between dark, black waters, gray waters, and they created, after the real world quest, it's the moment in which they create something with that knowledge. It's a product or a solution to something that's connected to the project. In that week, for example, they created filters to clean water here at school. They created models of the distribution systems using gravity and using different methods for the town, and they did all that in a real way. On the week of the waste management, as I told you, they created the whole system for managing waste and recyclables and all that in the school. And that moment in which they create something with that knowledge is where the knowledge really sinks in a deep way, because they're actually putting it to use. And then we finish that with what we call shine and share, which is a moment in which they inspire, teach, share the things that they've been doing with the whole group. That's very powerful. One reason is once we teach something is a moment in which that really integrates deeply and in the long term in us. I don't know if you've experienced it yourselves, but when you teach something, it really goes deep in you. Second, it activates a lot of inspiration and curiosity in the other kids and a lot of mutual learning. We've seen amazing results of kids helping each other to go deeper into a learning process. When we're working in a group and the kid has a question, the first invitation is to try to solve the question with his friends or peers. Most of the times, there's somebody that can help them. That person feels empowered to do it, feels confident, and the other kid, the one that's receiving the support, feels something very nice of being supported by his peers or friends. And in the right situation, I've never seen teenagers not wanting to be with younger kids. I think it's just a perception of a wrong way of doing it. But teenagers love to be the big brother, the big sister. They love to support, they love to protect, they love to teach. Of course, we need to honor that they need time for themselves and that they need their space, and we protect that and we honor that. But in the right moments, they're always willing to engage in various experiences with the younger kids. So that process, if what we've seen is that if we take one of those parts out, it's a table without all the legs that it's needed. So it's a curiosity awakener, the learning lab, the real world quest to see and experience that knowledge in the real world, then creation of a product or a solution using that knowledge in the benefit of a group and collective project, and then the sharing and teaching of that you created. That flow has been amazingly efficient, and the speed and the depth of the learning that's happening, it's way beyond what I've seen in normal scenarios or common scenarios. I wouldn't say normal, but common.